Hello, hello. It is I, the Solo Gamer, and today I have a special treat. I recently acquired a copy of the PS1 version of Wing Commander. And Wing Commander, which I actually have the original on Sega CD, and there was also there were some SNES games. But Wing Commander is by far one of those legendary franchises that sadly faded away over time because EA just refuses to do anything fucking with it. But it was also released, at least the third and fourth game, were released on the PlayStation 1. Each one a multi-disc set of its own. This one has 4 discs, which is huge. But the PlayStation 1 version, I haven't actually tested it, but I think it should be okay. Yeah, there it goes. The PlayStation 1 version does its best to move everything from the original PC version and transition it over to the PlayStation 1 interface. And this is made by the same company that did Crusader. Of course, Chris Roberts, who, if that name sounds at all familiar, then you know Star Citizen, because that's his newest project, is Star Citizen. And yes, Mark Hamill, Malcolm McDowell, John Rice Davies. Real ensemble cast for this show. Unfortunately, and this was before Mark Hamill lost his fucking marbles. And went completely fucking nuts. But this had a fairly decent ensemble cast. And a lot of people would, if you were familiar with, the 80s action movies and such, then you recognize a lot of them. Biff Tanner is, of course, Maniac. But there was a lot of immensely good bit players and secondary reports, secondary parts coming in for this. One thing I always loved was the Kilrathi's starship design and just how mean and angry it looks. Welcome to Kilra. Everything about the Kilrathi society is just so militant and hateful. And this takes place right after Wing Commander 2, which, the end of Wing Commander 2, this was when they were still using practical suits. But this takes place right after
Silence. My brethren, they are not warriors, but maggots.
Yeah, this takes place right after the second game where I think it's the Concordia gets absolutely annihilated in an ambush, and they are sent to Kilra to try and assassinate the Emperor, and it goes badly. And this is This is Blair's girlfriend, Angel.
Still defiant, Naga. If we were to offer coexistence with your kind, would you not accept it?
The Kilorati do not coexist.
No. And now that the tide has turned in this war, your defiance is a pathetic and useless gesture.
You bore me, monsieur. Disintegrate me so I might join my comrades.
Disintegration is not for you. Your fate will be different. The human cannot appreciate the honor that I am about to bestow her. She is not only a great warrior, but her lair mate is the heart of the tiger.
Which is what they named Christopher Blair, which is Mark Hamill's character. Yep, there it is. The Concordia got nuked.
May they rest in peace. Not for a long time, laddie.
And that is, in fact, Gimli.
Enough. You are not to blame for either.
Some disagree. This is Colonel Christopher Blair. Report to Admiral Tallman. The wreckage of the Concordia has been located in Vespus off the Mistral coast. Evaluation. Total loss.
You can't live your life for the approval of one man.
Any word from Angel?
None.
Is that the official line?
I know how much she means to you, laddie.
You have to keep in mind, when this was made, this was the apex of 3D tech. Like, this was generational for its time.
Did you see the victory? Is there something wrong with your hearing? No, sir. It's just like TCS victory. A fine carrier with a long history of service in the Federation. Yes, sir. A very long history, sir. Ship assignments aren't open to debate. Of course, I realize that the accommodations may not be what you're quite used to. So I need to suggest that the victory will benefit greatly from having a new commander of your stature and experience. Thank you, sir. But can we at least discuss that? Now that we have the Kilrathi on the run in both the Gardell and Morpheus systems, I can afford to ship you to the victory in all sea.
It doesn't matter what role he plays.
Well, is that things are looking up. The Federation has been making some very positive strides. Dismiss.
It doesn't matter what role he plays. Malcolm McDowell always looks like a shit stain. Like, he always looks like he's planning the most heinous bullshit.
It came as a bit of a surprise to me. As you know, Colonel Devereaux's status is on a need-to-know basis. Your shuttle is waiting. Yes, sir.
And mind you, this isn't the young, fresh-faced Luke. This is an older Mark Hamill. Not quite where he is now, or where he was in The Last Jedi, but he was about in his 30s at this point.
Despite recent marches in several densely populated sectors, Confederation spokespeople insist that humanity maintains the upper hand in its galactic struggle with the Karaki. However, our sources document a consistent underreporting of Karaki inclusion, as well as civilian and industrial losses. There are even reports of concept plans for a doomsday evacuation of Earth, replanting the seeds of humanity in a distant galaxy. The question is, who would go? Who would be left behind? And most importantly, who is making these decisions?
One of the greatest problems with this era of gaming was so many of these games were built in Windows systems using DOS as a baseline, though often they would also feature Windows 95 support and Windows 98 support, and all of them wound up being supported by XP, but they also used DOS as the baseline, which meant that converting the control schemes for them over to anything newer was almost impossible. Many of them didn't even have USB support at the time.
Welcome to the TCS Victory, Colonel. Better known as Jim Cancel.
It warms my heart to see you again, Colonel, but I must excuse myself now, as your duty here takes precedence over our catching up on old times.
Thank you, Hobbs. Talk to me.
Hobbs was one of the people who was on his ship previously before it went down.
I know what you're thinking. She's no Concordia.
Neither is a Concordia.
Trouble. Myself. However, you're in my home now, and I'll expect you to wipe your feet every time. I've been with the Victory most of my career. I was communications officer during a Navy voyage.
Well, sir, I'll admit I wasn't looking forward to the assignment, but unless you have a pilot's license logged in our Hollis on the crew.
Hobbs. Yes, he's my second in command.
He's not flying.
At his request. I know all about his exploits with you, Colonel, but here no one will fly with a corrupt uniform.
What about his exemplary record? That must stand for something.
Excuse me.
Captain Ison, I'm not going to tell you how to run your ship. I am going to insist that Hobbs is reinstated in the flight roster immediately.
Well, that's admirable, Colonel, but,
I will, sir. I'll fly with you. It's the best one you ever had.
So yeah, when this launched, this game was a showstopper. Many people would note that this game was, by all accounts, a massive advancement technologically. And granted, it's funny to see it now as it is. But the game is still, even by its own accord, it is a generationally effective platform with a lot of really well done visual and audio work all across the board. That being said, my biggest complaint about it is, like many of its things at the time, it was arguably an earlier program platform-wise, and you could see where they were moving forward, but this was still years before this was going to be a major, before it was going to be a major success technologically. And as time went on, the full motion video faded away. Whoops.
Welcome aboard, old friend. You're looking fine and fit. Does this war agree with you?
Yeah, like a pair of busted wing flaps. But it's great to see you, buddy.
And how is the fine pilot and Comrade Angel?
I don't have a clue. Haven't heard from her in a while. She's on some damn covert off for Tolman. But hey, I got good news for you. Put you back on the fly roster.
But I requested.
Never mind that. I want you on my first mission.
Well, there are many brave and noble pilots here.
Yeah. But when my life's on the line, I want a wingman I can trust.
I shall try not to disappoint you, old friend.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I very much have doubts. And to be fair, like at this point, spoiler warning is not relevant. But basically, Hobbs turns out to be a traitor. And if you couldn't guess that right out of the gate, whoa, what the fuck?
Play along with him. Play along with him. Are you saying Command's hiding something from us?
Well, I can't say for sure, Colonel. But if you want the straight dope around here, we'll check in with Radio Rollins. Might even save your life.
That was weird. These games always had audio glitches too, like because of the limitations of the PlayStation and CD-ROM system at the time. There were definitely issues in its era. Still, it was not uncommon, even on the PC back then. Ah, the good old cantina. Clearly, Hobbs is not the most popular.
How about going around with you? Put your week's pay on one hand.
Thank you. No.
Yeah, clearly most people do not like a Kilrathi in the vicinity. Vagabond.
Welcome aboard, sir. Want to play a hand? Since you're the rookie on this boat, I'll let you call the game.
Not much for protocol,
Formalities tend to be forgotten. We spend most of the time just trying to survive. What little spare time we do have, we fill up with other things besides practicing our salutes.
Well, I guess you have to adapt to your surroundings.
Don't I know that? It's an art, really.
No wonder they call you vagabond.
Been doing your homework, I see. Yeah, I've knocked around some.
And yet your combat file is surprisingly brief. What's with the big gaps in your body?
Can I help it if Confed decides to blank my data?
He's got a point. What? He's got a point. Sometimes HQ is as big a mystery to me as the enemy.
We've got a lot of good people here, Colonel. Even those of us with incomplete bios. Just give us a chance.
But yeah, you'll see a lot of, if you're big into the indie scene, or if you're big in like the sci-fi scene, you will see a lot of familiar faces in this in the Wing Commander series. And a big part of that is wandering around the ship and just meeting people as you play.
Know what I mean? I hope the fight goes well for you and all the others on the Concordia. I'm about to set up for a covert operation with Admiral Tolwyn, so I'm afraid that I'll be a part of it all. But always remember, just I love you.
That's the look of a man haunted by things he can't control. But yeah, like the biggest issue with this game, and in many ways with the series as a whole, was its proclivity to logging. Its proclivity to loading screens and other issues in the system.
Revolution in the Relita system tops our infoburst. Ad hoc government officials in that system are preparing to withdraw from the Confederation and offer negotiated terms with the Kilrathi. not conflict. It's a new review policy, according to the spokesperson. Confederation officials are now meeting with the regime to dissuade them.
Yeah, coexistence ain't an option. And you'll notice that as you move around the ship, characters can and will go from location to location constantly. Now, one thing you can do if you've actually... One thing you can do if you actually want to save time is go to Controls, go to Transitions, and shut that off, and it will automatically stop the transitions from occurring. And here he is. The maniac himself.
No, I don't have anything better to do, okay? So I pulled into a tight loop, locked onto that cat's tail, fired off a heat seeker, boom! Turned him into teddy bear. Oopsie. All right. Well, well. If it isn't the Colonel. I'm sorry. I couldn't make you welcome to party.
Well, I guess you have more pressing news on your table.
Your duty calls. I'm there.
You know, I'm surprised you haven't been blown out of the sky by now, maniac. My friend.
Oof.
Some people appreciate my flying style. I do what's necessary to win, okay? Suppose you still fly with one eye on the brakes, Manuel.
I don't take stupid risks.
Yeah, speaking of stupid, I also heard you put Hobbs back on the flight roster.
My. Word travels fast on this stuff.
Never understood what you saw in that character.
Simple. I need a wingman I can count on.
You can't trust someone who'll kill their own kind.
Who I choose as my wingman is my prerogative. It's privilege of rank.
I'll bet you stand late nights just polishing it, huh?
No, as a matter of fact, I have majors who do that for me.
The difference in our rank is a formality. We both know who's better in the cockpit.
Yeah, me too.
Which is, and it's,
Let me tell you that story again. So,
which is why in the initial opening for Wing Commander 4, the opening in Wing Commander 4 has him set up a 1v1 to prove who's the best in the cockpit, and you can actually win that battle. Anyway, let's run a quick run a quick mission. See how the game plays, shall we?
Come in, Colonel. Time to put that reputation of yours to the test. Confed intelligence tells us that the Karathi presence is growing here in the Lassini system. You and your wingman are to fly routine patrol of these 3 zones, sweep the area of any hostiles you may encounter. Understood?
Completely.
So, these are the mission objectives. Oh, and one last thing. Hobbs, you're on my way for this one. Dismissed. Good luck.
And here's Rachel.
Chief Tech Rachel Coriolis, welcome to the Victory, Colonel. Heard you're flying with Hobbs on this one.
You got a problem with that, Chief?
No, sir, not at all. I think it's about time. That cat's one hell of a pilot. Here she is, one Hellcat 5. She's prepped, primed, loaded, locked, and ready to kick some ass.
Thanks. What about ordnance?
It's all taken care of. The captain downloads the mission specs to me. I dope out the weapons requirements, so you're set to go.
Oh yeah?
In the future, Colonel, you'll have the option of choosing your own weapons. Or you can trust my judgment and fly with my default loadout. I promise, Colonel, never to disappoint.
Alright, so let's get on the road. For its era, and I mean, remember, this was 1996. For its era, this was groundbreaking. And to be fair, the PS1 version was a year after the the PC version, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on that exact time frame, but it's somewhere within there. So you got to keep in mind that this was right when the time when 3D was just taking off and was just starting to really hit its stride. This was just blowing everything out of the water. And it's no joke to say they poured fortunes into this project. There we go. Now that being said, one thing that is notable is that once you get in the game, you can change the difficulty to match your skill level. I'd say back in the day, it'd probably be worth it to do veteran or rookie to start with and then move up the chain. Nowadays, it's kind of, if you just want to play the story, I definitely recommend rookie as your option. Biggest issue is I forget the control systems for this game. And that is to say, like, because it was on the PlayStation 1, you had to use the control scheme that came with it, which was, at its time, fairly limited. It's also notable, and maybe this is just my hearing, it sounds like the music is different. There we go. Autopilot engaged.
Sighted enemy craft, Colonel.
Now, it is definitely a downgrade from the original controls and gameplay in the PC. That I have no doubt of. But still, it's not a bad version, especially if you're trying to do playthrough. Anyway, let's move on to the next area.
Sighted enemy craft, Colonel.
Nice shot.
Mission objectives accomplished.
One thing that is notable is that controlling the communication system, which in the game does become important. That being said, it's easy enough to find a copy of the manual online for this game now, so it's not like it's a big deal. One of the coolest things is you could actually fly all the way through the actual ship itself if you wanted. And to be fair, finding the instructions is not that difficult.
Turn to base.
Negative, Colonel.
Need clearance, TCS victory.
Excellent work, Colonel. I can see now that you're representing.
Clear for landing, Colonel.
And then you can do autopilot to land in no trouble. If there is a challenge to this game's control scheme, it is absolutely in its communication system, which is very, very sketchy. It takes a lot getting used to, and you have to memorize a complex control scheme that was much easier to handle on a keyboard and mouse. So.
Pretty slick flying, sir.
Thanks, Chief.
And it's funny because apparently they get, between the time of this game and the next game, they get married and then get divorced again. And by the time of Prophecy, he's completely abandoned, romance and become like a full Commodore. Anyway, but yeah, this is definitely an example of some of the best, in my opinion, in some of the best space opera action you could ever hope for back in the day. But it is a product of its era. And it's very much the example of how it is a product of its era, and a prime example of just how far the game industry was going at the time. And it would be followed up by the what is actually, in my opinion, a better game in Wing Commander 4, which was also a 4-disc game, and it came out 1 year later. But they were both ports of games that had been worked on the PC side for quite some time. But yeah, it's an example of where the PlayStation was and just how far it was going at the time. And to its benefit, it did wind up being a fairly successful franchise for a time, before it eventually did hit the brick wall as the genre began to die out and people lost interest in it. It wasn't alone. There were other games like Blastrius and Colony Wars that tried to mimic the Wing Commander style, but could never quite match its flair, if you will. Anyway, but I'm gonna let it go for here, and I will see you all next time with some more retro gaming goodness, including hopefully some PC version action for Crusader, as I do have the PC version of that game running now. But until then, I will see you all next time. This is the Solo Gamers signing out. Bye.